Welcome back to the Jess Berry podcast. Today we are going to be having conversation with Judith Tait. She is a seasoned entrepreneur, passionate real estate investor, business coach, and host of her own TV show, At the Heart of Business, on Rogers TV Durham. She is known for balancing a full-time career while building a six-figure business, which she recently sold. She also has a bachelor's degree in business administration. After serving 25 years as a police officer, she now focuses on her entrepreneurial endeavors and expanding her real estate portfolio. Judith is the host of her own podcast, Newly Invested, interviewing both new and seasoned investors, engaging with her guests in a way that offers her audience an unfiltered look at the realities of real estate investing, but also educates and inspires her audience to create the life they desire through real estate investing. Welcome, Judith.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So Judith and I met at a coaching event, mostly for entrepreneurs and real estate investors. And I had the pleasure of sitting at a table with Judith and getting to connect with her a little bit. And what really stood out to me about you, Judith, is just one, your smile. You have $1 million smile.
Oh, thank you.
And the second, it's just very apparent your confidence level. I think you just exude that confident energy, and also you're a very intelligent woman. And it was cool to hear how you had served as a police officer for so long, and then you're now entering into real estate. And I just thought that was really cool, the variety of things that you've done in your life so far.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
I'm really interested to hear more about your story, and especially diving into some of the adversity that you've overcome. I know with serving as a police officer for 25 years, I'm sure you faced a lot of adversity there.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
What were some of the pivotal moments throughout your career in the force, specifically with adversity, and how did you handle those?
Well, yeah. Well, probably the most recent thing, which was like 2 years ago, back in 2021, with the whole COVID incident. I call it a COVID incident, 2-year incident. Yeah, so I made the choice to leave policing, well, for a number of reasons, but the catalyst was COVID. So we were given a certain amount of time to get vaccinated, and I refused. And you know what? I wasn't one of those anti-vax people. Anyone who knows me and knows me well knows that my life has always been centered around health, wellness, fitness, eating well, speaking well, not putting stuff in my body that just doesn't belong. So when it came to the vaccination, it didn't make sense to me. They didn't even really know what it was. It was known as like an experimental drug, and they were calling it a vaccine. And anyways, I don't want to get into the whole conspiracy theory and what it was or wasn't. It was just something that I felt wasn't good for me. So they gave us enough time saying that if you don't get vaccinated, we're going to basically put you off, like, on unpaid leave. So basically kicking our butts to the curbs. There was about 200 of us. Over time, a number of officers, they eventually, the ones that were, I say kicked out, but the ones that were put off on unpaid leave, like myself, they eventually got it and went back to work, because especially like a lot of the men, they're the sole breadwinners. They're supporting, a wife and kids and, whatever at home. And they basically had to choose between their health and their career. And I get it, right? But for me, it just wasn't an option. Like, my health will always come before everything and everyone else. And I just believe that things always work out. So I would say that was one of those things that I've overcome. They reinstated us 7 months later. So I have 7 months without pay. But that's why it's really important to have the emergency funds, right, which everybody should have, because you just never know when you're going to need it, right? I sure as heck never knew I was going to need emergency funds, but it was there. So when they reinstated us, I made the decision that, well, no, I'm good. Like, this is where I exit. So I did my 25 years less 5 or 6 months. And that was it. I said goodbye. But at the same time, I was also running a business, that business that I sold, dog walking and pet sitting business. And when you focus on something 100%, it just kind of grows. And the business was growing because I was balancing that while I was working my full-time job. So the business was growing. But then when I had that 7 months to really focus on it, that's all I was doing. It required a lot of my time, a lot of effort to pick up and go back to work. I felt like I couldn't really do it, and I just didn't want to. Because I just kind of proved to myself that I'm good. I don't need, the police service to provide my my paycheck for me.
What was it like making that transition and then being your own boss?
It was really, I don't know. That's a good question. It was different. It was good. It was liberating. But then it's also like, oh my goodness, I'm my own boss. Everything's up to me. There was joy, there was pressure. I mean, like I'd been running the business already for like 5 or 6 years. So I was kind of like a boss anyway. I started it from scratch. I grew it to 6 figures. I had a team. So it's just a matter of I'm doing this full time now, but it's like this needs to work. And it's funny because then I ended up selling it anyway because I was like, oh, now I want to do this. So I ended up selling the business, but I still think it's pretty awesome that I started something from scratch, grew it, and I was able to package it up and sell it. And then with the proceeds of that went towards buying my first rental property. I already had another property, so I have a vacation property in addition to my primary home. So yeah, it's a different way of thinking, being your own boss. Like you really got to be creative. And I also had a whole new level of respect for entrepreneurs and business owners because if you don't do a good job, you're not getting paid. It is so easy to go to work every day where you know you're getting paid every 2 weeks. And even if you do a crappy job, you're still getting paid, right? And I'm not saying like everyone's job is easy. Policing was not an easy job. But the easy part is I already know I get up every day knowing I'm going to work, I'm getting paid. In business, you don't work, you don't get paid. You don't do a good job, you don't get paid. So it's a really different way of thinking. And because it's a very competitive landscape now, you have to be very creative as well. So you really have to step into your true power and that creativity to make sure you're getting paid.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned stepping into your power. I'm sure you had to do that a lot as a police officer and then running your own business and now venturing into real estate. But what are some practical ways that you would suggest people do that?
To really step into your power? Well, number one is you really have to know yourself and really know your purpose. So if you're, starting a business, what is the purpose? What's the intention? What are your goals? You really have to have a plan, an idea of where you're going or what you want to accomplish. Like with my business, it had a mission, had a vision, had core values. So to really step into that power, you have to know yourself and you have to know the purpose of your business. Otherwise, you're not really going to understand how to grow it. Not everyone wants to have a team. Like for me, it just made sense to have a team because of what I was doing. I was just able to serve more people and then scale the business that much faster. So even to have that team, you have to like really step into your power to know who it is that you want to attract on that team because you have to have the right people on your team or you're going to have no control and it's just not going to grow, right? At the end of the day, your business is a reflection and an extension of who you are. So having that confidence, knowing your why, that's another way to really step into your power. You have to know your why and you need to be very connected to that why. So why are you doing this business? Or even if you're doing a job, why are you in that job? Why are you in that field or that line of work? Because if you're not connected to your why, when things get really tough, you're just going to bail, right? And you're not going to stick it out, or you're not going to have the ability to problem solve, or you're not going to have the wide shoulders to carry the load because it's a lot. When you're starting a business, you're doing everything. And if your why isn't strong enough, you're just going to be like, it's too much. I'll just go do something easier.
What if somebody knows what they want to do, or maybe they've started down a path and they're a little bit fuzzy on their why? Or maybe they find themselves in the midst of a job that they've just been in for a long time and they don't know their why anymore. What would you suggest?
To kind of rediscover what their purpose is or what their why is, that's actually a really good question because it is very easy to get lost along the way. And in a way, I kind of felt that with policing, especially when I discovered business. And my why, like it very much changed because I grew so much as a person. And I still say policing, it's an amazing job. I loved being of service. But I just realized that I want to serve in a different way. And my values were no longer aligned with values of policing, not the actual job itself, but just the purpose of it or just doing policing. So to really figure out what your why is, go back to yourself and your values, because a lot of times our values just change. So take the time to sit, write it out, even talk to someone what your values are and what you want your life to look like going forward. And then maybe rediscover your why there and your purpose.
The values each of us hold are super important. I love that mention of how it's okay for them to fluctuate as you grow, and just being aware of how your values align with the company's values or the business or even like other people around you, like your close friends or family. Like sometimes your values are going to change and it's okay for people to come in and out of your life.
Oh, yeah. I recently just sat and did kind of a reevaluation of the people in my circle because I know where I want to go. And there's just going to be certain associations, not that I associate with bad people, but it's really, really important to align yourself and connect yourself to people who are doing a lot of the things that you want to do. And you want to protect your energy because there's some people that just might just have a lot of drama in their lives and you don't want to be around it, right? So sometimes there's relationships, friendships that just have to go, or you just spend less time there. And that's okay. And as you said, like people are going to come and go in your life. Not everyone's meant to stay forever. You know how they say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And that's okay. Their part in your story is over, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, thinking about life like a book and there's different chapters. If you read a book, sometimes it doesn't make sense for a character to be in every single chapter of the book.
Exactly.
You mentioned other people's drama, and somebody asked me how I was doing the other day, and I ended up telling them about all these other people's drama in my life, and then they're like, "But how are you doing?" I was like, "I guess I'm actually doing pretty good,"
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're surrounded by people that have a lot of drama going on, we all go through stuff, but it's gonna suck your energy, and you're subconsciously thinking about what everyone else is going through, and so it's really important to be aware of where everyone else is at in their life and what they're going through, and really where your sense of well-being comes from. Is it coming from you or like everyone else's
Yeah.
energy and situation?
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with, like as you said, we're all going to be going through stuff, and there's nothing wrong with being there for a friend, being supportive. But it's also really important for that person that you're supporting to realize that where they're at right now, it should only be temporary. Like if you have somebody in your life who needs to be the victim all the time, that is a relationship or a friendship that's just it's not going to work because it's not doing any good for you or for them. Like you're enabling them by consistently listening to their drama, and you're hurting yourself by absorbing that energy. So you have to be very like I am so protective of my energy. And as I get older, I don't have the time for it, right? It's just like, I'm getting older. I'm only on this earth for so long. I'm on a mission. I don't have time for the drama.
Yeah, definitely. What are some ways that you've been able to implement boundaries throughout your personal and professional life?
Well, for one, and it's funny because I had a conversation with someone about this yesterday, the phone. When I'm busy during the day, it rings and dings constantly. I put it on Do Not Disturb. Whoever's on my friends and family list, not even friends, it's like family. So immediate family and, husband, daughter, they can call through. But I know that if anyone on that list is calling me, it's important because they know I don't have time to chit chat about random stuff all day. Other than that, I don't answer the phone. If someone's calling me because they want to sell me something, even if my phone isn't on Do Not Disturb, I'm thinking, we don't have an appointment. I'm not answering the phone. You can leave a message, right? So I think the phone is really important as a boundary because people think, especially friends, that'll just call you in the middle of the day to talk about stuff. It's like, I don't need to make myself available to you. So you don't need to pick up the phone every time someone calls. And it doesn't even have to be during the day when I'm working. It could just be anytime. Like, that friend who just feels they can just call you all the time. It's like, no, 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 no. I already spoke to you twice last week. We don't need to talk again, right? Just leave a message. But other boundaries, letting people know how you expect to be treated. If you don't like the way someone is treating you or talking to you, it is very important to speak up and let them know. Boundaries around your time. If you book an appointment, a meeting with someone, and it's only supposed to be 15 minutes, just let them know, okay, you know what, we're getting close to the time. We're going to have to rebook another meeting, or, I'm just going to have to let you go. And I think it's also important to not be afraid to speak up and set those boundaries. Yep. And also say no. No is a big one. I always say I have the gift of no. I can say no. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm not worried about hurting anyone's feelings because I'm not trying to be mean. It's just, it doesn't work. But I'm also really good at connecting people. So if there's something that I can't help you with, I'm more than happy to connect you with someone who can.
I think having those conversations with people can be really difficult a lot of the times, but I guess like looking at things more practically, like, no, it doesn't make sense for me to do this or that. And then also not attaching an outcome to your worth. I think a lot of people get hung up on, oh, if I have this conversation with somebody and then they reject me or something, like it makes you feel like shit. So just taking yourself out of the situation sometimes, separating your worth from anything external, that can be helpful as well.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. Just because this happened doesn't mean this about you. So not attaching yourself, that's very, very important. And I like to look at things as a learning experience. If something doesn't work out, a lot of the times it's the universe tapping you in the right direction. Like, that's not the way you're supposed to go. You need to go this way. So just look at everything as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, you'll definitely get a lot farther in life if you do that.
Yes, for sure.
I thought it was so interesting. You're a host of your own TV show, and I don't think I've ever met anybody who done that. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about that and kind of how you got into it.
So yeah, it's called At the Heart of Business. It's a show that features women in business, and we discuss their challenges and successes. It's hosted on Rogers TV Durham, and Durham is it's a region just east of Toronto in Ontario, for people who don't know Ontario. Yeah, so I started that show, would have been 2021. 2021? Yeah, would have been 2021. Or was it 2020? Anyways, I've had it for about three or 4 years, during the pandemic time. And I was always really passionate about supporting women in business, because as a business coach, that's my niche, women in business. And I've also always been very passionate about giving women a platform to speak and to share their stories. So I wanted to figure out a way to support women in my community. I'm very, very community focused. I was actually interviewed by someone else at the TV station for my dog business at the time. Really nice lady. But after that, it was on Zoom because it was during the pandemic. I was like, that kind of sucked. I didn't really like it. And not to slam her, but I just thought she wasn't really engaging. And I was like, I could do a much better job. So I actually pitched the producer of that show, and I said, this is my idea. And she absolutely loved it. And she pitched it to her manager. We had a meeting. He said, this is a great idea. We love it. Just come up with a name. And I came up with 3 names and asked a few people. And then we landed on At the Heart of Business. And it was only supposed to be something temporary. I guess they wanted to see if it was going to stick, if we'd get good feedback. Here we are. In 2024, we're still going. I've managed to collaborate with a hair and makeup artist, and her name is Ruthie. I love Ruthie. She provides such a great experience for my guests. So my guests come in, they go into the makeup room, they get their hair all done up, and the name of her business is called Shine Mobile. Because like she's a mobile hair and makeup artist. So she gets people all just glammed up. And when the women walk onto my set, they just got this big smile, and they feel amazing. And you can just see it. Like, when you feel good, you exude that confidence. So the show, I don't want to say it's gaining in popularity, but it's getting out there, and a lot of people are noticing, and we get some requests to be on the show, and I get a lot of positive feedback, because women come on and they're really nervous, and they realize, like, oh my goodness, it's just such a great conversation, and it's wonderful. And I'm giving women a platform to speak and giving their businesses exposure. And the whole intention behind the show was to motivate and inspire other women in business, because during the pandemic, a lot of people were starting businesses. And in working with women, a lot of women have fear in really putting themselves out there. They don't want to show up online because there's just all the fears and the self-conscious issues that come with that. So yeah, I felt this was a really good way to help and give back to my community.
That just speaks to the importance of when you have an idea, the power that comes in acting on that idea. You saw a need and you saw yourself as a capable individual who could fulfill that need, and you put it out there and look at what happened. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like every year, at the start of every year, I set a crazy goal for myself, like something that's crazy for me. Because I was one person who, if you had told me even 10 years ago, you're going to have your own TV show on Rogers TV, I would have laughed, because fear of public speaking, don't want to be on camera. Like it was bad. So that was also to help me get myself out there more. At the start of the year, I was like, I want to be on TV. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. And so that's how it started too. I actually connected with our Chamber of Commerce and I asked them for a list of all the radio stations, TV stations, everything. And I just wanted to be a guest on a show. And I thought I should probably try and get on some podcasts talking about business. And I couldn't even tell you, I emailed a ton of different stations, and I think only two people got back to me. I responded to one, and they didn't respond after that. The other I responded to was my producer. She became my producer. So it was the producer of this show that I was a guest on. And she said, hey, why don't you come as a guest and talk about your dog business on this show? And I appeared as a guest. And it was after that where I was like, yeah, I could do a better job. And then that's when I pitched the producer. So I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just wanted to be on TV.
That's so cool. Giving the how of a process over to either God or a higher power or something like it's so important in combating fear, that fear that keeps us from taking action or even believing in ourselves. I know we have a few minutes left, so I just want to hear your thoughts on fear and what advice you'd give to either men or women who may be stuck in fear, they're overcoming some adversity in their life, and they're just feeling stuck.
Yeah, fear is the one thing that keeps you stuck. It's so funny because I used to have a coach, and she had this saying about excuses. Excuses are stupid, and stupid is expensive. What are yours costing you? And a lot of our excuses come from fear. They keep us stuck. So identify the fear and just realize that well, you know how they say fear is false evidence appearing real? Because it is, right? And a lot of times our fears are at the base of it. It's something in the past, something from our childhood or an experience, something that's happened. And just remember that whatever that fear is attached to, it doesn't define who you are. I know that's not going to help you to just get over it because it does take time. But I say when you are afraid of something, do it anyway. Do it afraid, because you need to be so powerful over that fear, because fear is an extremely powerful emotion, and you have to make up your mind that you're going to be more powerful, and that what you want, your desire for what you want, is so much more powerful than your fear. You need to make your mind up, and often what you want is on the other side of that fear, so you need to get through it.
Yeah, 100%. I like to say the next best version of you is waiting for you on the other side of your fear.
Exactly.
Yeah, believing in the worth of what you want is also really powerful. I think so much is tied to our worth, and having a good relationship with your own personal worth is going to take you so much farther than if you have poor self-worth. So that's something that I think we can always be working on.
Yeah, I agree.
So last question here. I want you to think about your 10-year-old self.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you would tell her if you could, sit down with her right now?
10 years old. I don't even know what I was thinking when I was 10 years old. It's so funny because when I was small, like probably even before 10 years old, I knew I always wanted to be a police officer. I guess I would tell her, yeah, just you're gonna go on to accomplish great things and just, face your fears. Because I think at the age of 10, I think I was pretty fearless. Like I was a very daring kid. I'd almost like to reverse that and have my 10-year-old self talk to me today and say, just be fearless, go for it. Because as we get older, all those fears, those excuses, the limiting beliefs, that's what stops us and slows us down. But I was that, fearless 10-year-old kid jumping off the top steps, thinking I was Superwoman. But yeah, I think if I had to go back and talk to my 10-year-old self, I would just say, you know what, just keep going, keep being fearless, and just be that train. Don't let anything get in your way, because you're gonna achieve some great things.
I love that. So powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah.
I'd love to put some links below for anybody who wants to connect with you, Judith, or find your TV show.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing that. Any last minute things you want to share with our listeners today?
Yeah. I just keep going. I love quotes, and one of the people I admire the most, Martin Luther King. He's just such a powerful leader. And in one of his speeches, he said, "If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. And if you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving." I just remember that quote. Like every time I feel discouraged, I just think of that, because sometimes we're not always going to be on cloud nine and feel like we can take on the world. We just have those days, but don't stop. That's when you'll get yourself into a lot of trouble. You'll spiral into that depression, the anxiety will take over. Just keep moving forward.
Love that. Movement is super, super, super powerful.
Yes.
I have loved this conversation with you, Judith. Thank you so much for your time and looking forward to staying connected. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Please share with somebody who is going through a difficult time and you feel like could benefit from hearing more about Judith's story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.